Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast producing badass.
And I'm John Thomas. If it's haunted, cursed, or just plain weird, I'm into it. From paranormal encounters to horror movie deep dives, urban legends, count me in.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our spiritual tribe out there? In today's episode, we'll be diving deep into the shadows with special returning guest, James Annitto. James is a demonologist, paranormal investigator, and author. Welcome back, James.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
My screen just did a weird thing. It bounced like back and forth, but my recording's still going, so we're going to roll with it.
It's the demons.
All right. Well, it's not a 3Haunted episode unless you're playing with demons. So, James, it's been about a year since we had you on, actually. Oh my gosh. The episode aired November 7th of 2024 when we had you on for Demonology and Theology in Season 5. So it's appropriate. We've got you back in November.
That perfect anniversary date.
Well, happy anniversary.
Yes, 3Haunted and James sitting in a tree.
James Annitto.
Hey, Vito, eating the pasta.
All right. Well, while we eat the pasta, how is life in the demonology How is life in the demonology world going for you?
Pretty good actually. You know, after our conversation on the last 3Haunted in November of last year, I actually took a break in December, and I recently just came back in July. But in that time frame, I not only was in my master's program for my psychology, raising 2 kids, having a career, but I also wrote 2 books. One book that's actually out, and one that is in the holster, ready to fire, probably sometime middle of 2026. So yeah, so I'd say that what's been in the demonology realm is one, writing a book called History of Demonology that's due out in 2026, and then writing kind of like a psychology book on the paranormal that first came out on Halloween. So that's what's I've been up to.
Those are big things in a year. 2 books, raising family, and just working on degrees. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know how I do it. Don't ask me. Just power of will. Some Linkin Park stuff right there. Power of will, baby.
And no sleep.
I sleep pretty well, actually, thankfully.
So the book you released in Halloween, The Psychological Dimensions of the Paranormal. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'll just read from the excerpt of the back of my book, so it's right here, so I don't screw it up. What lies beyond the veil of human perception? In the psychological dimensions of the paranormal, James Annitto takes readers on a profound journey into the mysterious overlap between the human mind and the supernatural, exploring the ways in which psychology, spirituality, and anomalous phenomena intersect. This book delves into the hidden dimensions of human experience where fear, faith, and the unexplained collide. I can't read that. Oh, actually, I can. Drawing from research, case studies, and experienced accounts, Annitto examines how individuals interpret encounters with spirits, demons, and otherworldly entities. Are these manifestations external forces, inner projections, or something in between? With a balanced lens, he uncovers the psychological underpinnings of paranormal belief while respecting the profound mysteries that continue to challenge scientific understanding. Whether you are a skeptic, a seeker, or a student of the unknown, this book will provide new perspectives on the enigmas that haunt the human mind and spirit. That's my book in one paragraph.
I love the alliteration.
I had to say in my deepest place, like, yes, this is what lies behind the veil of human perception.
A seer, a skeptic, or a student.
So the book is, as long, even though it's called the psychological dimensions of the paranormal, not to create taboo in the field or stigma again. It really just presents it from a fine line perspective between being in the middle of skeptical and being a believer, right? I'm a believer, but I am skeptical of things as well. And so I wanted to write it through a different lens because I think I've observed, and I've observed in my own life, that when you get comfortable with something, you become too biased or too subjective to it. And I feel like when you're not looking through other lenses, you're doing yourself injustice by not digging that rabbit hole correctly. You're just trapped in what you want to believe and not what could be going on. So the book presents different perspectives. I don't put my opinion in the book. It's based on research, based on some of my cases, but intertwined with like how I could present it without like me saying this is what I believe. I like to tell people it's reading the book and asking questions, right? Asking questions of yourself, what you've experienced, or how you interpret things. It's not meant to change what you're thinking or what you believe in or make you more skeptical. It's like really good for me, biasly saying so. I wrote it for people just to ask questions and dig more deeper into what they might believe or what they might be skeptical of, with of course data and information saying, hey, these are how some things have been explained, but doesn't discredit that, because it's I make a note in my book is that the Chinese farmer boy to the European um, townfolk to a Chicago office worker all have very similar experiences at vast differences of time and location. They still have similar experiences, and why. So these are the things that I present in the book, and I try to make it insightful.
Yeah, I actually got to read a good amount of it today. I was driving back from Kansas City with my family, like I told you earlier, and I was like, I need something to pass the time, and I picked up the book on Kindle, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go through it, and I'm not quite done. I got through, I think it's like 70 pages, but it's I like how it's not from just a point of view of religion, but also psychology, also um, the science behind it, the cultural aspect of it. It's not just all one thing, right? And I like that you did choose the different. How did you choose those different like specific cases? Did you want something from different cultures? Is that why you did it?
Yeah, I did. So if you, I picked different locations. So like for people that haven't read the book, it's in three parts, right? It's part one, which is spirits; part two, which is demons; and part three is the human mind, the mind. And in part one and part two, I give specific cases or locations. Like spirits talks about haunted locations throughout the from Australia to England to the United States to India, and then demons also tackle many different possession cases from different time periods and from different locations as well. But yeah, I chose that because I wanted it to flow historically. I wanted to say, hey, like once again, to my comment about the Chinese farm boy to the Chicago worker, I wanted to paint that, hey, yes, there could be this that can prove this or disprove it, but why is that person experiencing it in India and the person in North America, South America are dealing with the same thing? So I wanted to paint a picture, but also leave it for interpretation for the person to add their own strokes of their art to what they think of how I'm presenting it. But yeah, I like how you approach that and how you that actually brought forth to you that you noticed that. And I hope other people do notice it too, that I didn't try to pick centric to a specific era or decade. I didn't focus just on America, and I wanted that for a reason.
Well, I think it's important too that you are delving into the psychological aspect of the paranormal. It can be touchy, right? Like it can be a touchy subject because so many people that have experienced paranormal phenomena throughout their lifetime oftentimes get ridiculed and called crazy, or get accused of having like mental illnesses. But just because that is something to be sensitive to and aware of doesn't mean we shouldn't have the conversation altogether, because there are psychological things at play that can affect the paranormal. And the thing that I like is that you're willing to dive into that, but also the idea that you're giving these different cultural perspectives so that people understand, even if one instance or case is psychological, doesn't mean all of them are.
Mm.
It just means that it is a possibility, right? And I know you said you didn't want to necessarily make people more skeptical, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you've got people coming into this reading a book and everything's a ghost, like the heater kicked on, it's a ghost, or the cat sneezes, it's a ghost. Like, maybe there is something to your book that will help those individuals that are so quick to believe learn a little bit more of that healthy skepticism and understanding that other things can be at play.
Yeah, and I really want to reinforce your first statement about like the psychological aspect of it to every degree. I believe I said it on your show a year ago. If not, I have stated it multitude of times. Speaking is that every demonic case I was a part of had a level of trauma to it. And so it paints a picture like people can't magically get rid of demons, even through the power of faith, if there's still a hole in them that it could allow this thing to come back, and they have to tackle the psychological as well, get over that trauma, heal, so that they tighten themselves. So that book also reinforces that. But yeah, I definitely think that the book allows you to either you pick, you can choose, right? Yeah, if you're so skeptical, great. But I think if you're too far or something, you're once again boxing yourself in that one corner or in that one hole without expanding, right? Because I've met skeptics, unfortunately, that will probably never believe, and if a ghost came up and smacked them in the face, there'd be an explanation for it. Or a believer that thinks, like you said, everything's a ghost. I've met those people. And I come from a construction background too, and I'm in a lot of old historic locations. I post them on my page because I'm in HVAC and plumbing for my day job. But so I see a lot, and I can see why people would misinterpret certain things. But you know, like I always like to harp. We talk about the Salem witch trials in America, but the European Inquisition was a total nightmare. Lots and lots of people died, lost their lives because of superstition, and of course political gains and reasons too. That wasn't all of it, but we've come a long way with having a better understanding of what certain things are, and I think we lose that sometimes because truly we do becoming enamored by the supernatural, the paranormal, because life after death has been one of the most fascinating things that has transcended human civilization. And even the cradle of civilization, the Mesopotamians, they came up with the idea of what happened to humans after death. And so we've always been fascinated as long as we've been a civilized culture, not just troglodytes living in caves. So it's fascinating that it goes a long way.
You and other guests have brought up the idea that trauma, especially intense trauma, can kind of leave people a bit more vulnerable to paranormal experiences and supernatural experiences. And we've tried to kind of surface level dive into that topic of what about trauma lends individuals into experiencing those scenarios more. And I know some might argue, well, there, because I've heard people on the poisonous social media say that it's a psychological manifestation of their trauma and it's not real, it's all in their head. And then others that have said no, it just heightens the senses because the person's always in survival mode, so they are receiving those things a little bit more. So my question to you is, in your cases, in your research, what do you find?
I really can't give you a conclusion because it's like saying what a ghost is. I don't know, right? So it figuratively, I have to be honest and say I don't know. But like what I've observed, trauma does seem to be a key, or some psychological deficiencies, or even physical deficiencies, or neurological deficiencies tend to open certain people up to certain things. That either if it's subjectively or objectively, like it really truly happening, like so. It's hard to say. I hear the word vibrations thrown around a lot, which of course is a true term. Like I also think if you have trauma and you're still carrying it, your vibrations are lower. They're not very positive. They're not upbeat. So your low sound vibrations dissipate. If you're a louder sound vibration, the sound will be in the ethos for a longer period before it dissipates. So I look at it like that in that avenue, is that if you have high vibrations, you heal from your trauma, then you have a better bio shielding around you. And we all have bioelectric fields. That's something that we can scientifically prove. We have bioelectrical fields around us. We are walking. We Our heart's a battery, right? So we're letting off energy, or electricity, or however whatever word you want to utilize to encompass what we let off. But the pineal gland, which was thought to be the third eye for a long time in the 50s, until the 50s they thought it was a dead gland. We now understand it releases melatonin. So, and they also say it does send out a signal in the brain. And so I think that if we have psychological deficiencies, like if we have mental health issues, we come to realize mental health issues can create physical issues, right? So I think that when maybe our brains weaken, the pineal gland sending out you're more receptive to things to come to you. I've talked to a lot of psychics and mediums that come from tremendous histories of trauma, and they really can truly talk to something that is unconceivable in my mind, or have detection. Not all of them, of course, but the ones that I would put my stamp of approval on have proven me wrong, with my questioning or with my seekings of who they really are. And so I think that those things come into play with people. I think that we all have what we would call intuition, or um, a sixth sense, even though we know there's like 11 or 20 senses now in social science. But, I think we all have it. I think there's just a point where we get to a certain age in the mid 20s where our brain's fully developed and we're not really thinking about it. And we come to the point where we just don't feel it or experience it. And then there's some people that have that trauma and experience it. I definitely think that there is something beyond what we can understand, but I can't necessarily prove it either. But I definitely find it fascinating that certain things lead, like a perfect example. There have been studies, and not true scientific studies. I would love to do it, but people on ASD, autism spectrum disorder, right? They people on autism tend to be more receptive of spirits as well, right? There've been notices of that, and I think that's why a lot of people as kids, when they're kids, have imaginary friends or talk to something unseen. Is once again, they're not fully developed. They're maybe tapping into something that when you're adult and you're set in your ways, and culture has developed you, or your community has developed you, then you can shut it off. So it's a fascinating thing to look into. It's such a deep dive. We could talk hours and hours about that theory, but it's fascinating.
You mentioned a rewiring of the brain and how that can make you a little bit more receptive. And I kind of wonder, because you're right, trauma does rewire the brain, and physical trauma, emotional trauma, like it's not just a specific type of trauma, does rewire the neurons in the brain. And I wonder if the rewiring of those neurons is creating a different electrical paths that vibrate
Like a
to those
signal, like an
different.
antenna, like a receiver thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what they say the pineal gland is, right? Why? The funny thing is, a lot of people don't know what the circadian rhythm is, right? That's your daily bodily function. It's chronobiology, and melatonin for the average person releases at a certain time, right? And so it's interesting if your brain's rewired, but that circadian rhythm's coming into play. that's why maybe certain people receive messages at certain times, or when we're at haunted locations, we're starting to become calm and we might experience something because, or something is truly there. We're experiencing it because, our circadian rhythm is lowering our potential, decreasing
That shield.
the heart rate, and decreasing that shield because you're starting to become more calm and collective because of the melatonin, which is a natural release, what our physical body is meant to do.
BJ's like, note to self, take a lot of melatonin before going to sleep at a haunted house.
and stay awake and stay awake.
Yeah.
That's the battle. Stay awake.
There you go.
That's part of the fun right
that's
there.
the thing I kind of right. And that's actually kind of what I want to do is fall asleep in a place like that. It's not a
Because
good
you're
idea.
most sensitive in your sleep.
Exactly.
That would be
But I'm gonna
that would
feel
be a good
something.
thing. Yeah, I mean, and have somebody kind of be awake and watch over it just to see, if they can experience the same thing that you do. Perhaps. I mean,
I feel like I've said this before that I'd like to have a sleep study done at a high activity haunted house or location where you have lucid dreamers and sleep paralysis individuals, and take them to those locations with the actual, electric nodes to see what happens
Yeah.
when the dreamers are asleep.
It sounds like you're onto something.
yep. I volunteer you and BJ.
It's like Dream Warriors real life.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's do it.
Hey,
Heck
I would want to be a part of it. So if you guys really do it, let me be a part of it.
You get to watch us sleep. Make sure
Absolutely.
I'll protect you guys. Yes.
wake us up.
Anybody that we would trust to do that, it'd be you for sure.
I
I'm like,
appreciate
wake me
it,
up,
Sean.
wake me up. If you see me twitching and yelling, wake me up.
You guys are gonna all wake up with whipped cream on your face and shit.
Oh my God. Sharpie mustaches.
It was the ghosts.
It was the ghost. The ghost did it.
You'd be like, I didn't do it.
You got talked by the Sharpie demon.
If that's the worst that happens from a demon, I'm cool with
That's
it.
okay,
Sharpie
yeah.
my
I'm
face.
totally fine
Sure.
with that.
No, that's great. Yeah, I love the idea of a sleep study. Like I actually was listening to a podcast where they talked about that. This neurosurgeon was talking about how he does stuff in the brains. He would do a little electric pulses on different parts of the brain to see if it affects your speech, because you don't like if you affect the speech too much, like you'll lose your whole language and then you're like you don't know how to talk again, right? You have to start over. But just trying to avoid spots in the brain to try to see how to affect the brain in a positive way if you're having problems.
Yeah.
But also, but like going into all of that, like how does, like you could be asleep, because they were testing the whole REM sleep thing, but also lucid dreaming, right? Like how people can actually be given directions or have a conversation with you while you're asleep. They can answer you while you're in the dream state, but also still, and I think that would be a fascinating study, like Ashley said, in a haunted place. But I don't know.
You can tell which parts of the brain are active when they're connected, right? When they've got like the different nodes on there, which parts are activating. So I'd be really curious on attaching those to like psychics and mediums when they go into these spaces and they're receiving messages and receiving to see, like you said, is the pineal gland being stimulated? Is something being activated in the different parts of the brain, and see if there's a commonality, right? Are they all accessing similar spaces?
Yeah. No, yeah, I would love to bring fMRI to a haunted location, but that would be impossible. Oh God, can you imagine?
Impossible or slightly difficult?
Yeah, especially with the magnet on the fMRI. Good luck. Good luck.
Look, we're gonna figure it out, okay? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, you can do an EEG, of course, definitely EEG on that, and that would help too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, challenge
Well, aren't
accepted.
most hospitals like haunted anyway?
Right, but
But there's not a lot of activity reported. It's usually the abandoned hospitals, not the active hospitals.
Why though? I wonder.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, I knew a nurse that would see all kinds of things and actually have them follow her home and sit in her car. And so
Oh, hell no.
And
I've
yeah,
heard stories too, for sure. Yeah, I've heard stories about current friends still that work at hospitals or doctors or nurses or even like the waiting staff for like the food. They have experiences for sure. I think it's possible when I don't think when it's really busy, because hospitals get really busy when they're active, right? So I think that you're not just, but when it's simmered down and you're actually paying attention, you probably do have experiences, because think about it, how many people have died at hospitals, right?
Mm.
That's the
right.
last place they've been. So the consciousness still lingers, tethers to that location for a period of time before they're forgotten.
Or they're still there, like the NDEs where people like die and they look and they can see what everybody's doing and
Yeah,
then they come back into their
they
bodies.
leave an echo. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still maintain my theory that when a place has so many people in it, their energy is so active and vibrating, it doesn't get rid of the paranormal that's existing there.
increases it.
It
Kind
just,
of overwrites it.
well, and I think also it kind of subdues it for a moment. So then when it's quiet and everything calms down and the energy isn't as strong, right? That vibration isn't as loud, then it can kind of rise to the occasion again.
It's a good analogy of that is a battery, right? A battery dies, and then you can recharge it, and it rejuvenates, right? So, so many people add to it, and then it overcharges, but then you know, it recharges again with peace and tranquility, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, right. And also, if you think about like the type of people that are there, are they experiencing paranormal or is it effects of what they're going through mentally? Like, is it something, could it be trauma? Could it be PTSD? Like, what is going on with them? And that'd be another thing with the electrodes to figure out, like, which part of the brain affects the PTSD, and is that hallucination or is it something else? Is it external or what is it?
What if it's not exclusive?
That's yeah, I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, to me, to even me, I love the term psychic tantrum, right? I don't find it as less interesting, if not more interesting, if ghosts truly didn't exist. And like I've come up with a paradox, right? What came first, the human or haunting? It still doesn't make it any least interesting if actually at the end of the day we are like creating that projection, and these things are happening because of that grief, and we're creating and projecting this into reality, or maybe even loved ones, right? We hold that on, and we project and imprint them into our reality in that form. To me, even if that was a possibility, I'm not saying I necessarily believe in that's a theory, but that's still fascinating to me anyway, right? How the hell can we do that? Which is crazy, and we don't know how we can do that, and that's what parapsychologists believe, of course, right? Um, but it's interesting stuff. It really is.
Probably the reason that nobody really talks about it like in an active actual like hospital is they don't want to sound quote unquote crazy until they find podcasts like this and they're like, oh, those are my people, and then hey,
Like, we welcome you.
absolutely.
Like,
I want to get admitted to that hospital right now.
welcome to our sanitarium.
All right, Metallic over here.
3Haunted Hospital, Enter Sandman. So, you also have a book. You said The History of Demonology. Is that correct? Or History of Demons?
History of demonology. Yes, it's not out yet. Um, I have a big project that I'm going to be announcing this Friday, with a fellow individual in the demonology field. So it's going to be based upon when that person releases their book, which has been in the works for a while, and when I release my book. So we're kind of planning around like book releases with our thing that we have going to be announced on Friday night. But yeah, I'm looking sometime around summer of 2026 to release the book, History of Demonology.
It's coordinating that dance around the projects.
Yeah, I just I think just it's fair if you're working with somebody that you don't like compete with each other on that level. Like you want them to be successful with their book, and then my first book hasn't outwardly been successful. Like I haven't been marketing either. Like I never published the book like on Amazon. I put it for $10, right? I put it at a low price for people to pick up, because I really don't care about the money. It's not my drive, but I want people to read it and touch it. I haven't had too many people read it, like I think 50 so far, which is still a good number for me. That's with not marketing it, but You know,
It's been out less than a month.
yeah, less than a month now coming up, but you know, I definitely I think it was also a little bit different. You know, even though I'm in a master's program in psychology, it's still a little bit different than what people know me for. So I think the history of demonology is not what people are expecting. To be honest with you, like it's not like I hate writing about myself. I hate talking about I like discussing theories and going down a rabbit hole. So it's really just really legitimately what you would think. It is an academia book, but it is meant for like the normal day average Joe to read it, pick it up, and learn something from it. Same with this book. I could have. This is 160 something pages. It could have been a textbook if I really wanted it to, but I wanted people to pick it up, read it in a day or two if they can, maybe a couple of days a week, and move on from it and hopefully take something from it. And that's the same thing what the history of demonology is. It's there to punch you in the face. The analogy I've been using, and I find it funny because I'm fat and I love to eat.
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
really fat, but I like to say the books that I put out are like going to a buffet that you like, eating as much as you can, being happy that you're full, walking out, and you paid the price of admission and you're done that day, right? That's what I want my books to be. That I want you to eat as much as you can in that one sit and be happy about it, and then then move on to the next book. I didn't want it to overstay its welcome because I think I would have lost too many people because I like to be too technical.
What inspired you to write this book and to make that the first book? Because you have two that are going on kind of simultaneously in writing. So why was this the one that you went for first? And the specific topic?
Because I love psychology, I would say it's on an equal measure of I'm in master's of psychology and probably am gonna go when my kid's a little bit older for my doctorate. But I love psychology. I love social science. I love science in general. As I tell people, my origin story is I was a Darwinist. I was a evolutionary biologist lover when I was a kid. So it's just like I wanted to write something different. Like everybody expects me to do demons and demonology, but I did write about demons in this book, right? So I want it to be kind of like a test of waters for myself to get because I think what happens with how long I've been doing this and how long I've been wanting to write, like writing something in my comfort zone, you don't have that tenacity to write, right? Because you already, it's like, yeah, it's easy to write it, but it's like you don't have the love to write it. And it's weird to say. I loved writing my second book. Don't get me wrong, but the first one kind of uh, pulled a pulled a hood over my head and like you got to write this, you sucker. But no, it's not a book that I see many people write. Unless you're really in like the psychiatry field or psychological field. Like you have people like in parapsychology, you have Chris French that created anomalous psychology. You have people, but the normal day paranormal investigator, paranormal person won't read those books. They might pick up a Richard Gallagher, who's a psychiatrist for the Roman Catholic Church, but you don't see many books like this written, and I wanted to be different.
Yeah, what I like about it doesn't. I mean, it deep dives a little bit, but I feel like it just touches on so many different things. You talk about demons, you talk about possession, you talk. There's a lot of different. There's different chapters on different things that and even the future of it, which I was actually I want you to get into that. That's what I want from you from another book, maybe getting into the future of demonology, getting into the future of possession, because a lot of the things that I've noticed is when people talk about demons and possession and things, like it's not like, yeah, yesterday there was this case. No, it's more like the 80s, the 90s, or back, right? Like I don't know, maybe I'm just not paying attention enough, but I'm just curious about like what's changing, or if it's just not as, or there's actually psychological things that explain it now.
No, that's I think that's a great task. It'd be a hard one to write. But I like any challenge, so maybe I'll have to think about that. After I write the two books, like I said, I have this other project going on. See how that goes, and I think in that project, I will be able to answer things like that in a different sense. I can't give too much away because I can't give my announcement up for by Friday, but I will say that um, that kind of topic or that kind of discussion can be done in the platform that I plan to announce on Friday. But no, it's a fascinating thing. It boggles my mind too. Like I look at the different cultures, different generations, and either the abundance of it or the lack of it. And you know, people have asked me, do you see it exploding more than ever? And it's hit or miss. Like I haven't really seen a true demonic case in many many years. Like I did a case in Maryland probably around the time I was on the show last year. And that was like some hexation, like that was like some like tribal like black magic being done. Like things were going on, like but like I can't even equate that to be demonic, right? So I've tackled things that were negative or in that realm, but yeah, it's been a while since I dealt with the demonic case. But the problem is it's maybe how I analyze it, right? And compared to somebody else, like if you put another demonologist in one of my cases, maybe that their conclusion would be it's demonic, right? And I just don't like jumping to that word. I really like to look at a cause and effect, but no, I think that you can definitely go down that rabbit hole and explore the future of it or even the present of it as well, more than so what it truly has been done.
Sometimes wonder if it hides better in plain sight. We've become a very pop culture driven machine in all countries. It's not just one where the very occult and shocking is normalized, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I'm not putting a negative tone on it. I think people are expressing themselves as they need to. But I oftentimes wonder, because that content is so strong and prevalent, is it easier just to hide in plain sight and be like, yeah, me too? And like, people aren't as awkward about it. And, if someone came on, I mean, think about it. If someone came on Instagram and did a reel and said, yo, I'm the prince of the dark, I'm a demon, wow, people would be like, yes, demon daddy. Like, it wouldn't be as, oh my gosh, there's something wrong. Am I wrong though?
Yes, Demon Daddy.
I'm just saying, like, it would be, that would be the response. So um I do think that right now is a prime era for that kind of stuff, the darker vibrations in life, to be embraced, because it's the rebellion of the oppression and the suppression. But I also think it kind of makes it a little easier for the stuff that is genuine to kind of hide and slide right through.
No,
Demon daddy.
it makes sense because like and this is not my theory, so I'm not attacking Muslims. I love my Muslim brothers. Of course, it is bad in every culture and every religion, but a lot of like mystics and seers in Abrahamic faiths and even outside the Abrahamic faiths have had visions that the Antichrist would stem from uh, the Muslim world, be a person that was very positive, right, and bring joy and bring this facade to the world, and then turn out to be the devil. And this is multiple people throughout different cultures and people that did not know each other that said this stuff, and mystics supposedly who talk to God. But yeah, so it's interesting. Like once again, it's like it wouldn't the demonic world, and I think that's the thing that we get from the movies. It's like so out there. It's like they want to know that they play in the shadows. Like so, things are going on right now, and it could be the play of the devil. It could be the play of the demonic, or evil spirits. It could be, but it's definitely not going to come out and beat his chest and like we're here to take over the world, because then you lose the deception, and that's what any demonic case talks about: instilling fear and instilling deception, breaking your will down, as beknownst to as much as people can not understand it, right? They become reclusive. The person that's possessed or oppressed, they become very reclusive, and so it doesn't want to be known like that. It wants to attack from the shadows. So
So Demon Daddy isn't real.
well,
Dang it.
well, the prince. Look at God rest his soul, Ozzy Osbourne, right? Look at his symbolic motif of being the Prince of Darkness, even though he was a very devout Christian, and later on in his life was like so devout, a believer of God. But sometimes of course, that's what sells, right? That like at Black Sabbath, of course. Mayhem was a really crazy group of true Satanists that burnt churches down. But a lot of those symbolic people that call themselves that, it's just attention. Even Antoine LaVey, uh, Church of Satan, that was just rebellion. They didn't really truly believe in the devil as an archaic being, but they it was rebellious to the norms against the Christian folk, because that's what culture threw down their throats, and they wanted to rebel from that. So even a lot of those people that proclaim certain things, really it's just a facade, right? It's not truly demonic, but but those things, laws, new thought theory, laws of attraction, laws of attention, those things can definitely bring that stuff. Like if you're really too focused on promoting dark necessities.
Sex and Satan sells.
It does. Hey, it does. Sex of the '80s and '90s, and now it's Satan of the 2000s. Right? Look at Conjuring. Just came the number one horror movie of all time. I believe it was just announced. Right? Number one series of all time. It's a crazy amount of money it made, and then on top of all that other horror programs that have a demon or whatever in it, right? Yeah, you had The Exorcist in the '70s, but that was a cultural phenomenon. But it didn't do any of the numbers that a lot of these movies are doing now. Even if you take out inflation.
I wonder if why like horror in general has been such a big thing like lately. Like there's been such a big rise in, quality. I don't know. Maybe there's just really good filmmakers that are doing horror right now, and that's great. But like it seems like yeah, like you said, like the numbers are really high for people going out and watching horror. And does that have to do with the way the world is like the all the crazy things that are going on in the world like um movies reflect society, right? Like what, and that does that have an effect on it, and in turn would that affect a society to be more susceptible to demons and real things
Yeah.
because we speak it into existence?
Well, yeah, and it could be their reality. Like, there's stats out there saying that there's been a fall off of religious followers. More people have become an agnostic or atheist. These are true statistics, right? So I think that the movie, the thing about marketing psychology is these people that do marketing really know how to take advantage of the current cultural thinking or the collective conscious of people, right? So yeah, no, definitely they know horror sells. They mimic that. They see a lot more people thinking of their story less of as a taboo or a stigma and telling their story. So it's a cultural kind of correlation or reflection of what's going on. And I think that also too though is a scary thing as well, because regardless if it's Christianity or God or but faith is an important part of the brain. It's a part of our brain. Like they've done studies on faith, neurotheology, and when somebody's praying or thinking of God, there are certain neurotransmitters that fire off, and the brain activates, and positively too. And so it's like faith is important. So when people start dwindling, dwindling, delineating away from faith, then that causes issues and turmoil, in my opinion, because I've seen that. I've dealt with people that despised God and were had things happening in their house, and through guidance and through them finding their faith, not me forcing faith down their throat, but them finding their faith, they overcame that affliction and lived happily ever after. So it shows you the importance of it. It doesn't have to be God, and Christianity and Jesus. It could be, as much as that's who I am. I love Jesus and I'm a Christian. I also understand that different faiths reflect different people's characteristics and thought patterns. But as long as they find that faith, it's very important. But yeah, the more the horror movies starts taking people away and focusing more on the occult and less away from the faith.
So I don't think horror movies take people away from their faith. I think, is there a correlation to potentially the increase in horror and the acceptance of horror and the decrease in dogmatic religious followers? Potentially, yeah. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fundamental issues of dogmatic religion. Kind of similar to what you just said, having faith in a higher being and having faith in positive, higher vibrations is one thing, but ascribing to a faith that's a lot of them suppress and oppress and make people feel bad and shamed for the shadow versions of themselves, and that extreme oppression to live under that and live within that. I think people definitely have rebelled and turned away from it. And because of that suppression and oppression, it's not so much I hate God because it's God. I think oftentimes it falls into, oh, this is God, then I don't want God. When really the issue is what's being done at the human level within those churches. Now, with that said, I think that the reason a lot of people are turning to and accepting the consumption of horror is because that same shadow self that was suppressed and oppressed within the religious side of the house is actually being explored within the horror genre. And from a psychological perspective, we've talked about the psychology of horror. There's a lot of catharsis and a lot of shadow self work that can be done through the avenue of horror that people, viewers, listeners are able to engage in and do somewhat healing through, depending on what they are watching, consuming. So are they related? Yes, but I don't think it's in the vein of, yay, the occult and demons, and that's why horror is becoming popular.
No, and I hopefully I didn't state it like that. I'm not retracting anything. I think that maybe misconstrued it, that horror isn't necessarily a gateway, but it does lead you to exploring a rabbit hole of, okay, this experience to me, and then you start opening things. But no, they just came out with a study last week about saying how horror movies help stimulate the mind, and it's very positive for people unless you watch. I think somebody said that if you watch Terrifier, you're psychotic.
Torture films.
Torture films. But they did say about horror movies being a stimuli for the human brain for healing. And talking about shadow self, I talk a lot about Carl Jung in my book. Fascinating creature he was. But yeah, no, I definitely don't think horror movies destroy your faith. But I also feel like that um, it's not the movie; it's the exploitation of what's going on behind the scenes that what draws people away from faith, in my opinion. I've seen it, in the field. I've seen it with people, and have had accounts of people saying things. So that's from my personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that churches and again, this is not an attack on church. So, guys know this. I believe absolutely some people need the church for that comfort, that support group, that community. And I don't have anything against the idea of church. I think that a lot of the dogmatic religions, as they were, can't exist that way in the way that the world is going and be sustainable, which is why, again, I see, in my opinion, that's why so many people have turned away from church and the idea of God. However, I am noticing more and more and more churches and religious organizations are starting to rebrand that and go back to that original message of love and embracing community and being there as a support. And I've actually met people that are going back to the church. They're like, oh, I actually just started going back. There's this church I found that accepts me for me. And it's like, so people crave that community and that love and that sense of connection to something
It's
beyond us.
important.
Yeah, it's just a matter of adapting so people don't feel ostracized and
Yeah,
alienated.
and I think that's the problem too. Is then you could say that the church was infiltrated. There's stories about that as well, but community. We're social creatures, right? If we're reclusive, we start to dwindle. I don't care however long. Talk about Star Wars. Even though they did poor Luke Skywalker wrong, he became reclusive, and look at what happened to him into the Last Jedi. But that's the story of time. We're social creatures. We have to be a community like a church that helps build character, builds you, builds your cultural identity. So it's very important. So when you start getting away from it, it's a negative thing, in my opinion. Even because if you get away from your church community, that might be where your friends go. Like, of course, that's a poor example because a lot of people have friends outside. But community in general is a very important thing for humanity. And I'm glad to hear people like I'm not a Bible thumper. I barely go to church myself. I go to church once in a while. I pray at home. I get with my friend who's a Roman Catholic priest every Wednesday for dinner. I'm doing my due diligence, but yeah, no, it's interesting. But I did like the recent study that came out saying because I love horror movies, right? So I'd be an oxymoron to say that, yeah, horror movies lead you to the devil, and then I'd be spewing up nonsense because I think I just watched. As much as I was disappointed, I just watched Weapons like a couple weeks ago, but a decent movie, but still disappointing.
Even the most archaic and traditional religions is adapting. I mean, we see the new popes
Oh yeah, Pope
that
Leo.
are
Yeah,
embracing, right? Embracing the variety in humanity and saying everybody is welcome and we truly love everybody. And I think that when these organizations still stay foundational to whatever their ideas are, but realize that people just want to be loved and embraced for their faults and their good qualities, and that they're allowed to be human and make mistakes. And I think we'll see that kind of rise back up again in the numbers. But, we'll see.
yeah, and that's all the politics, right? Like we talked a little bit about theology the last episode, so we have to interject a little bit of it in this. But
Right.
like if you look at and like once again, I'm just speaking Abrahamic sense Christian. Like if you really look at Jesus in the New Testament, his apostles were all sinners, right? He welcomed them open arms to be a part of them, and he did not judge them. He made them a part of his fold, and he was even betrayed by one of them. That even though he probably knew he was betrayed from, but it's like the story of that is like it's doesn't matter who you are, you're a part of me, right? So and unfortunately the politics and um certain beyond the dogmatic aspects of it, but like the politics of it is kind of what tainted people in that kind of power. But yeah, no, but yeah, if you're a Christian, love everybody. Don't judge, don't hate.
Yeah.
You can have a difference of opinion, but we're in a day and age where you can't have a difference of opinion and then just walk away. It has to be a fist fight or argument. It sucks, right? I remember debating and okay, we agree to disagree and we walk away and we learn from each other. You learn something about that argument or that debate. But we're at a time and age it's hard to do that now because people get in a tizzy.
Well, and I think a lot of it is, this unconditional love that, that Jesus promoted, that there isn't that going on,
Yeah,
right? There are conditions.
yeah,
when you're on earth, this is your condition.
yeah,
And when you die, like maybe um, one of the things I've looked at is different things with when people die, they go through like the life review and it's all unconditional, right? Like people, like the spirits that are up there, the angels, whoever you want to call them, they're there to experience it and have you there, but not judge you, right?
yeah.
But we're here, and judgment is like
Key. Yeah,
We
right.
do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the problem, and that's the problem with, it feels like, with a lot of religions, right? We just
Judgment
bunch of
is not the
judgers.
problem. It's necessary. It's just the extent of judgment, because judgment got us as a survival of the species as far as we did, as long as we did. You had to be able to judge to discern if a situation is appropriate for you or not. And you still have to do that to an
Yeah.
extent, that discernment, but it's the matter of the extremity of that
Right.
judgment that we've reached. And
Yeah.
what we do with that judgment. It's gotten aggressive, it's gotten violent, it's gotten like oppressive, and it's a problem.
Well, yeah, that judgment came internally, physiological. That fight or flight. That came from the troglodytes, where something was in a bush. That if they didn't stay alert to that, what was in that bush, even though it might have just been wind, they could have been dead, right? And that's really what stems through the evolution of the humanity, is that judgment. You have to judge the situation. But yeah, we take it a whole nother level. Like, yeah, somebody could be an a-hole, or be a serial killer and do something heinous, and we could judge them for that because they did something bad. But yeah, we take it to extremities, extremes that are just awful, for sure.
I mean, this whole idea of red flags and green flags, that's all over social media. Like, that's judgment. Those are judgment calls we're making to discern if those people are healthy for us or not. So again, I don't think all judgment is bad. We all do it, and we all need to do it, right? To an extent. It's just like you said, it's gotten extreme, and what we do with those judgments has gotten pretty intense. So
Yeah, we got a little philosophical on this tonight. I love it.
welcome to Demonology and Theology Part 2.
Plus philosophy.
Plus philosophy, adding psychology.
Yes. And who's to say demons aren't pushing that, right? They're just like, hey, from the sideline, right? Or they're right in the middle of it, probably.
Who's to
just
say it's
being
the
like,
demons?
That is theories for certain people, man. Like I'm a theory person. I dig down like when I say I dig down the rabbit hole, like you should think of you should be in my brain for a split second of the things that I'm thinking of. Like, but yeah, no, those are what people think of, have thought that these are all ploys and these are all deception and facades and creating, good versus evil, the battle of the end, the apocalypse.
Now, hear me out. I have a crazy theory, and if this episode goes wonky and it gets canceled or deleted or whatever, like, we know I was right.
do it.
We talked about like the Antichrist being like a super positive force and like coming in and just being like, look, I'm so amazing and positive and light. What if the Antichrist is Taylor Swift?
You leave Taylor alone.
She's already got her millions and millions and billions of followers around the world that are literally ready to kill at her command. Like, they give death threats to anybody that looks at her the wrong way. She turns 13-year-old girls into little psychos. Like,
I'm a Swiftie. I'm sorry, I can't agree with that.
oh, they've gotten you.
I'm a Swiftie.
I think it's funny that BJ was like kind of defending her, and this time last year, a little earlier, it was me doing that, and now I'm like, yeah, she probably is. So I've flipped.
I'm just saying 50% of us have been tainted, and I'm not going to say which two.
Hey,
Satanic Swifties. That's all I got to say.
So my
Hey.
thing is, so I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and Taylor
Yeah.
Swift is marrying
Blah.
a Kansas City Chief, which, I don't know if it has to do with
What was she
anything, but
thinking?
like,
But yeah.
That's the demonic marriage of convenience.
all I know is that she pays her crew well, and she does put a lot of money into into food banks and all that kind of stuff.
I
So
agree with you on that.
She
and
does
I,
give a lot of her money away.
What did James say about the demons don't want you to know they're doing what they're doing? You're going to do it from the shadows. All I'm hearing is you supporting this theory. Do you think that she'd be out there like cutting people and making the streets run in blood? Not yet.
That's the next
Not
album.
But you look at her the wrong way, and then
That's next year.
there goes the blood.
She does have a lot of power.
I like how James is like, and I'm gone.
I'm a Swiftie. You can't change me.
Hashtag Satanic Swifties.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, like, I've seen her live, right? And I'm like, Maybe I was hypnotized that day. Maybe.
Y'all, this is gonna be hilarious if this is what gets me canceled.
Yeah.
I might have to actually
You're gonna get
cut this out of
Swifty
the
Swifty hate
episode.
tonight.
No.
Like, no, John's like, do it. I want to
we
see you
gotta
get
try it. We gotta
canceled.
see. No cancel.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I've always been as much as I joke about that, is I've always been a proponent of a boss badass who created herself by herself.
Yeah.
Like, nobody created her. She started at 12 singing at festivals. She has created this empire and this crazy business on her own. She's cultivated the hell out of her image and continues to protect it in every single way it adapts. When things get hairy in some way, she adapts and PRs that shit until it's gone. Antichrist? But no, but in all honesty, I respect the hell out of her as a businesswoman. Am I into her music? Not so much. But I was joking about it earlier with the kiddos because we were talking about how, like, I don't remember how it came up, but how, like, Machine Gun Kelly was on Hot Ones, and they asked him what he thought about Taylor Swift, and he's like, I think she's the nicest person. And if I didn't, I still wouldn't say anything because those Swiftie fans are scary.
They are.
And I was like, she really does control billions of 13-year-old girls and up who will give death threats to people if they look the wrong way at Taylor. And I'm like, that's the Antichrist.
Hey, who knows? You truly might be right.
No, but mad props to her as a businesswoman and someone who's savvy enough to keep her business going up and up and up. So
Yeah, like wasn't her Madonna? Didn't she do the same thing? Basically, didn't take her parents' money and went off on her own and became super like one of the most successful female artists of all time.
I don't know, but I know Lady Gaga did too. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like you have these ladies who are just girl bosses, and can we just give a moment of respect to them? We digress. Okay, so what else do we have to talk about, guys? We're wrapping up this episode,
Yeah.
but do we
Let's
have any
wrap it up
final
with
thoughts?
Fergalicious. Fergalicious.
Oh, Fergalicious. Although technically she had a group. So.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
Fergie's still amazing, but she had the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, you can't
so.
deny the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, like we can't forget they were there. All right. Any final thoughts, questions, anything we feel compelled to talk about?
I just want to know, for your second book that's coming out, why did you decide to focus on that specific aspect instead of like psychology, for example? You could have gone a bunch of different ways. Is it because of your other partner? Are they doing a book did you guys decide to do like specific like things on demonology, or?
No, I just wanted to focus on the history because I've read a lot of material that paints it a certain way or makes it a little bit more entertainment, and I wanted to, like I said, I wanted it to be a book that would be able to be digested and liked, but I wanted to focus on it because there's just people in my field and paranormal, like demonology, really haven't wrote a book about it. You know, like you have like Dictionary of Demons by Michelle Bellinger. You have Encyclopedia of Demons and Demonology by Rosemary Ellen Guiley. But really, that's all you have, and those are much older books. And those are big books too, very expensive books. Like I think to buy the encyclopedia is like 35 45 bucks. So I wanted to come out with a book that, of course, is probably going to be priced at $10, and it's going to be readily accessible. You don't have to be a brainiac or an intellectual or academic to read it. You know, I like to write for anybody. You know, my 9-year-old probably could read some of my book and understand it. That's what the book's intent was, that I wanted to focus on the history because the history of it's very important, but it's also one of the most beautiful things about demonology, and it really does hit upon some of the psychology as well, with the development of demonology and its outlook. Right, like I said, I talked about the Inquisition earlier and what they did to people, and then of course the lobotomies and stuff like that, and psych wards. Maybe people actually were dealing with some. So it's developed very much so, and I wanted to focus on that, take certain things out of it, expand upon it, and maybe talk about it, and then jump to another millennia or whatever. Yeah, I think I start from Mesopotamia, and then I go to where you say the future. I talk about a little bit of the present and a little bit of the future in it, but hit upon it. Nothing expansive, but I think people enjoy it. I think it's different, but it's once again, it's not filled with like me, right? I don't talk about my cases. I don't talk about me. I talk about demonology, just like I talk about I do psychology and neuroscience and belief in this book, and tackle it that way.
Now, speaking about you, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media, specifically Facebook, James Annitto, Annitto, and if you add a .com after that, that's my website as well. But if it's easier and you can't spell my name or pronounce it, it's demonology.org. Demonology.org. That links to my website as well. My book's on there on the book tab. You can purchase the first one. The second one is also, there's a picture of it, and a button ready to say buy me or pre-order eventually. And then, if you need to reach out to me, either if you need help, or if you're a team that needs consultation or assistance, you can email me through there. Um, and then if you want to book me for events, you can reach out to my website, or you can email anitodemonology@gmail.com. That goes to my manager, Jai. And yeah, that's how you can reach out to me.
Fantastic. John Thomas, do you have anything?
I just want to say thank you for coming back on and throwing movie references out there too. I know it's like not really a typical thing, but kind of is for us, so it's cool. But yeah, no, thank you for coming on again.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, James. It's been far too long, even though it's been a year. I would love to have you back on when your second book releases, definitely, if not before then. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Mr. Anito.
Hey!
It's a pizza pazza.
Hey.
All right. Vijay Segura, do you want to bring us home?
Yes, absolutely. Again, James, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your hosts. I'm BJ Segura.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
I'm John Thomas.
And if you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. If you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all our social media. You do not want to miss our amazing guests like James Annitto.
Also, don't forget to check out 3hauntedpodcast.com. You'll find all of our past and current season episodes, as well as guest information and all kinds of awesome merch.
Hey.
Until next time.